The first time I woke up, the only thing I could hear was a steady beeping beside my ear. It took a second to realize it wasn't a dream. The rhythm was mechanical, patient. The second time I opened my eyes, someone was talking. "You collapsed at work," a woman said gently. Her scrubs were navy, her hair tied back. "We called your emergency contacts." "My parents." I whispered. She checked her clipboard. They didn't answer. "We've been leaving messages for 3 days." I stared at the ceiling. There was a long crack running right above me. My throat felt dry, my chest heavy. 3 days. They hadn't answered in 3 days. I tried to make sense of it. Maybe their phones were dead. Maybe they were out of town. I told myself they'd show up any minute, rushing in full of apologies. They didn't. On the 4th day, my phone finally lit up. The nurse had plugged it in beside the bed. For days, it had been a dead, cracked screen, a black mirror reflecting the dull light of the hospital. When it buzzed, my heart leapt. Finally, I thought, they know. They're calling. It wasn't a call. It was a notification. I lifted the phone with a trembling hand. My wrist still had an A4 taped to it. The message came from my sister, Mia. She had tagged me in a photo. I tapped the screen, and the image loaded slowly, pixel by pixel. It was bright, the kind of brightness that hurts your eyes after days in fluorescent light. My entire family was there. Mom, Dad, Mia, and my younger sister, Hannah. They were standing by a lake, sunlight glinting off the water behind them. Mom wore her favorite yellow dress. Dad had his arm around her. Hannah threw up a peace sign. And Mia, smiling wide, held out her phone for the perfect selfie. They looked like a postcard. A happy family enjoying summer. The caption under the photo read, "Family Day, no drama, just peace." Followed by a heart emoji. I read it again. No drama. The room around me blurred. The sound of the monitor grew louder. I could still hear the words of the nurse from days ago. "We called your parents." They didn't answer. But they answered Mia. They drove to a lake. They took a photo. They were happy, without me. The post was 2 days old. The day after I collapsed at my desk. The same day the hospital left another voicemail saying my condition was serious. My chest ached, but not from the A4 or the exhaustion. It was something else, sharper, colder. I zoomed in on the picture. My father's shirt. I'd bought it for his birthday. Mom's earrings, my gift from last Christmas. Even Mia's car keys hanging from her wrist, the ones I paid to replace when she lost hers. They were smiling in clothes I'd paid for, eating food I'd probably covered, driving a car I helped fix. And I wasn't there because I was the drama. The heart monitor beside me suddenly spiked. The beeping quickened. A nurse rushed in. "Are you okay? You need to stay calm." I nodded, unable to speak. My hand was still clutching the phone. She thought I was scared of the hospital. I wasn't. I was scared of the truth. She gave me something, a small paper cup with a white pill. "This will help you relax," she said softly. I swallowed it. My body grew heavy, but my mind stayed sharp. I stared at the wall, unable to cry, unable to move. The photo was still open on my phone. 4 people. Smiling. Peaceful. Complete. Without me. That night, I didn't sleep. I just listened to the drip of the A4, the quiet hum of machines keeping me alive. I told myself it was fine, that they just didn't know how to handle hospitals, or sickness, or me. But deep down, I knew the truth. They hadn't forgotten me. They'd chosen not to come. When morning came, I opened my banking app, and realized being the drama wasn't my biggest problem. It was being their paycheck. Morning light slipped through the blinds, cutting pale stripes across the white hospital walls. My head felt clearer, though my chest still ached. The nurse came in with a clipboard and told me the doctor would visit soon. I nodded, but my eyes were already on the phone charging beside me. I didn't open social media again. I couldn't bear to see that smiling picture. Instead, I opened my banking app. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe I needed to feel in control of something. Maybe I just wanted to see where all my time and energy had gone. When the app loaded, the first thing I saw were the automatic payments, neat little rows that told the story of my life. The mortgage, $1,850 every month. My parents' house. My father had once said, just for a few months, Lily, until the business takes off. That was 3 years ago. The business never took off. But the payments never stopped. Next came my sister Mia's rent, $1,200 a month for a downtown loft she loved posting pictures in. It's exposure for my art, she used to say. I'd never seen a single piece of her art. Then Hannah's tuition, $2,500 every month. She was the good one, the smart one. The one who got into a private college everyone bragged about at family dinners. The tuition, books, meal plan, all of it under my name. Scrolling down, there were smaller payments. Utilities for my parents' house. Gas, water, electricity, all on auto-pay. Their family phone plan, which was really my plan. Car insurance for Mia. A grocery store card Mom used only for essentials. I added it up in my head. 6,000. Sometimes more. Every single month. I earned a good salary at my job at Greenline Systems. I was a senior project coordinator. I managed deadlines, crises, and people who fell apart under pressure. I didn't fall apart. Until I did. I'd never noticed how little was left for me. My apartment was tiny, the kind of place where you can cook dinner and watch TV from the same spot. I hadn't taken a real vacation in years. My clothes were practical, my shoes worn out, my phone screen cracked. I didn't live, I maintained. And now, lying in this hospital bed with wires taped to my skin, I realized I wasn't just maintaining my life. I was maintaining everyone else's. The nurse came in and checked the 4-line. "How are we feeling today?" she asked with a polite smile. "Lighter," I said, though my voice was flat. She thought I meant physically. I didn't. When she left, I stared at the banking app again. The transactions blurred into one endless list. I thought of birthdays and holidays, all the times I'd said, "Don't worry about it, I've got it." I thought of my parents' smiles, their gratitude, their subtle guilt trips. Then I thought of that photo, their perfect day by the lake, their happiness labeled no drama. I wasn't the drama. I was the funding. My chest tightened again, but this time it wasn't from pain. It was from anger. For years, I believed being useful was the same as being loved. That if I just kept giving, I'd finally earn my place in that smiling picture. But lying there, I understood. I wasn't in the picture because I was never part of it. I was the invisible hand holding it up. I closed the banking app and turned off my phone. For the first time, I didn't care if someone needed me. The nurse's footsteps faded down the hall. The 4 dripped rhythmically, like a clock marking the end of something. I thought of every dollar, every favor, every sleepless night I'd spent covering for someone else. And then I made a decision, a small, quiet decision that felt heavier than anything I'd ever done. I was done paying. Not just with money. With energy. With my health. With my life. The machine beside my bed beeped steadily. I listened to it and whispered under my breath, "You're not the drama. You're the supply line." That night, I picked up my phone again, not to scroll, but to cut every cord that kept them connected to me. That night, the hospital room felt quieter than usual. No beeping from my neighbor's monitor, no nurses chatting in the hallway, just the low hum of the air vent and the drip from my 4. I'd been staring at the ceiling for hours, thinking about numbers, faces, and the word grateful typed under a photo of my family smiling without me. My phone sat on the rolling table, still glowing faintly. I turned it toward me and unlocked it. The screen light washed over my hands, pale and trembling. I didn't go to social media this time. I went back to the banking app. One by one, I opened the tabs I'd memorized without realizing it. Mortgage. Rent. Tuition. Utilities. Each one had the same small grey button at the bottom. Cancel scheduled payment. The first one I pressed was my parents' mortgage. I hesitated for a moment, staring at the pop-up. "Are you sure you want to cancel this payment?" My finger hovered over the screen. I thought of my mom's voice, calm but edged, the way she'd say, "We raised you better than this." I thought of my dad's sighs when I said I couldn't send extra that month. I thought of the caption, "No drama." And then I pressed yes. A small confirmation message appeared. It was done. Just like that. No fireworks. No guilt. Just silence. Then came Mia's rent. Cancel. Her car insurance. Cancel. Her phone bill. Cancel. Hannah's tuition, that one made my chest tighten. I'd always told myself she was different. That she'd appreciate it someday. But she was at the lake too, smiling like the rest of them. I pressed cancel. Then the utilities, the invisible expenses that no one ever thanked me for. Electricity, gas, water, all cancelled. I sat there staring at the screen, waiting to feel something. Fear, maybe. Regret. But all I felt was a strange, unfamiliar lightness. It was like unclipping a heavy bag from my shoulders after carrying it for too long. My phone dimmed and went dark. The reflection on the black screen showed someone I barely recognized. Tired eyes, tangled hair, a hospital gown that looked 2 sizes too big. I wasn't the person who kept everyone's world spinning anymore. I lay back and listened to the slow rhythm of the 4. Each drip sounded like the end of a transaction. Drip. Mortgage gone. Drip. Rent gone. Drip. Tuition gone. Drip. Me, finally gone from their accounts. I whispered to the empty room, "No more withdrawals." The next morning, the doctor came in, reviewed my chart, and said I could go home soon. "You just need rest," he said. "Real rest." He smiled kindly, like someone who didn't know how much that word cost me. Rest. I hadn't had real rest in years. My version of rest was lying awake worrying about bills that weren't mine, people who never said thank you, and parents who thought love was a financial plan. When he left, I packed the few things I had, my cracked phone, a charger, a notebook, and a pair of headphones. The nurse stopped by to unhook my 4 and smiled softly. "Your family must be relieved you're okay," she said. I almost laughed. "They don't know," I said. Then, after a pause, "And I don't think they care." She looked uncomfortable, like she didn't know what to say. "Well," she murmured, "sometimes people show love in different ways." I smiled politely, but inside, I knew she was wrong. Some people don't show love differently, they just don't show it at all. Later that evening, when the lights in the hallway dimmed and the hospital quieted again, I felt a calm I hadn't known before. I wasn't waiting for their calls anymore. I wasn't waiting for an apology or a visit or a reason. I'd spent my whole life trying to fix people who broke me. Tonight, I'd finally unplugged the machine. But peace doesn't last long when people realize their lifeline has been cut, and by morning, I'd find out exactly what that silence costs. The hospital released me the next morning. The nurse gave me a bag with my discharge papers, a half-empty bottle of painkillers, and a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. She asked if someone was coming to pick me up. I said yes, even though no one was. Outside, the sky was pale and washed out, the kind of morning that looked like it hadn't decided what it wanted to be yet. I called a cab. The driver helped me into the back seat without saying much. I didn't mind the quiet. When I reached my apartment, the hallway smelled like old carpet cleaner and takeout. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. Dishes in the sink, a half-finished project on my desk, the soft hum of the refrigerator. It felt foreign, like walking into someone else's life. I sat on the edge of my bed and looked at my phone. The notifications were piling up, emails from work, automated messages from the bank confirming my cancellations, and a few random app alerts. Nothing from my family. Not a single text or call. The mortgage payment was due that day. Mia's rent too. I waited, pretending I wasn't waiting. No one called that night. The next day, nothing. By the third day, I realized something strange. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was thick, like the air before a storm. Every sound in the apartment, every tick of the clock, every car horn outside, made me flinch. I found myself checking my phone every few hours, half hoping, half dreading to see their names flash across the screen. I wasn't sure what I wanted more, to be noticed or to be forgotten. By day 4, I started to believe they might never reach out. Maybe they'd simply move on without me, replace my contributions with someone else's help, someone easier to manipulate. Maybe they'd call it tough love. Maybe they'd blame me for drifting away. I almost convinced myself of that. Until day 5. At 6:13 p.m., my phone finally rang. For a second, I just stared at it. My mother's name glowed on the screen. The same name that hadn't appeared since before the hospital. My hand trembled, but I didn't answer. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. A minute later, it rang again. Same name. Same ringtone. Same feeling twisting in my stomach. Then came the text. Lily, call me. Now. No greeting. No how are you. Just a command, like I was an employee who'd missed a deadline. The next one followed 30 seconds later. We're worried. We heard from your boss. Why didn't you tell us you were in the hospital? I stared at the words, my thumb hovering above the screen. We're worried. I could still see them smiling at the lake while I was hooked to machines. I didn't reply. A few hours later, another text arrived, this one from my father. Mortgage payment didn't go through. Did you change banks or something? Fix it before they start calling me. No mention of me. No question about my health. Just the usual urgency about bills. I almost laughed. It was so predictable it was almost comforting. By midnight, the text stopped. The silence returned, thicker than before. I made a cup of tea and sat by the window, looking out over the streetlights flickering below. A woman was walking her dog. 2 teenagers were arguing by the corner store. The world kept moving. And I was still here, breathing, alive, finally detached. When I turned off my phone and set it face down, I realized something. Silence wasn't always a punishment. Sometimes it was proof that you'd finally stopped being someone's safety net. Still, deep inside, I knew the storm hadn't passed. My family didn't give up easily. They didn't accept no, they negotiated it, twisted it, reshaped it until I caved. This time, I wasn't going to cave. But peace built on defiance never lasts long. The next morning, I opened my door to find a familiar voice waiting, and with it, the first person who would help me uncover just how deep the damage really went. When I opened my apartment door the next morning, the hallway light was dim, flickering like it couldn't make up its mind. At first, I thought no one was there. Then a voice said quietly, "You look terrible." I froze. It wasn't my mother's voice. It wasn't my father's either. Standing by the stairwell was my grandfather. His old brown windbreaker was zipped up to his chin even though it was warm inside. He looked smaller than I remembered, but his eyes were sharp, steady, the same eyes that once scared my father into silence. Grandpa. He didn't move to hug me. He just studied me for a few seconds. They finally broke you, huh? I wanted to say no, that I was fine, that I was stronger than that, but the lie stuck in my throat. Yeah, I whispered. Thought so. He nodded like he'd been expecting that answer. Come on, I parked out front. You drove all the way here. Someone had to, he said. You shouldn't be alone. I grabbed my jacket and followed him outside. The air hit my face cold and sharp. His car was old, the kind of sedan you only keep running through stubbornness and habit. He opened the passenger door for me and waited until I sat down before walking around to his side. For the first few minutes, we didn't talk. The city rolled past in dull grey streaks. Finally, I asked, "How did you even know I was in the hospital?" "I called your mother last week to talk about the trust. She was busy." Sounded annoyed. Then I got a call from someone named Dr. Evans. "Works with you, right?" I nodded. "My boss." She must have found his number in my emergency file when no one else answered. "She said you collapsed," he continued. "Said your parents hadn't shown up. So I called the hospital. And here we are." It was that simple. No guilt trips. No conditions. Just a call and a car ride. I stared out the window. They didn't even come, Grandpa. Not once. "I know." His tone was flat, almost emotionless. "I saw the photo." My heart dropped. The lake photo. "Yeah. He glanced at me, jaw tight. That girl of theirs, Mia. She's a real piece of work. Just like her mother. I laughed quietly, but it came out like a sob. He didn't say anything. He didn't reach for my hand or tell me to stop crying. He just kept driving. You're a fool, Lily, he said finally. But not in a bad way. You've just been one for too long. I wiped my eyes. I know. When we reached my apartment building, he parked but didn't get out. They're going to call, he said, his tone deliberate. Once they realize the money's stopped, they'll come at you hard. Crying, begging, threatening. They'll say you're ruining them. You'll want to give in. I nodded, already feeling the truth of it. You can't, he said. You're weak when it comes to guilt. They know that. They made you that way. He reached into the back seat and pulled out an old tablet in a cracked case. When I heard you were in the hospital, I started digging. Digging? Into your father's mess. Into all of theirs. He turned on the screen. Rows of numbers filled it, columns of debts, payments, and dates. You thought it was love, he said. They thought it was obligation. Two very different equations. He turned the tablet toward me. Before you cut cords, you better see where they lead. I stared at the screen. Names, numbers, transactions, all lined up in brutal clarity. You cancelled the payments, he said. Good. That was step one. Now we figure out what they took. My voice was barely a whisper. What happens after that? He smiled faintly. After that, we do something they never expected. We stop playing defense. I looked at him, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something new, resolve. That night, at my kitchen table, we started peeling back the numbers, and what we uncovered made the betrayal look smaller than the theft itself. That night, my apartment looked different. It wasn't just a place to recover anymore. It was a crime scene. My grandfather sat at my kitchen table with his old tablet and a yellow notepad, the kind with a corner folded back from years of use. His pen scratched steadily while I scrolled through my bank statements. Start from the top, he said without looking up. And don't skip anything. We're not just hunting for big payments. It's the little ones that drain you dry. I opened my banking app and pulled up 6 months of transactions. I'd seen these numbers 1,000 times, but never like this. $350, he said, tapping the screen. Every week. Grocery Mart. That's Mom, I said. She has a card on my account for household stuff. Household stuff, he repeated. You eat any of that food? No. Then it's not household stuff. He wrote the number down. That's $1,400 a month. On top of the mortgage. He went line by line, patient as a surgeon. City gas. $89. That's Mom's car. He grunted. And Netflix premium. $229. Whose? The family plan, I muttered. They all use it. He wrote it down. Urban Yoga, $120. That's Mia's membership. She said it helped with her anxiety. He didn't react. Prime membership, $14.99. Dad uses that for his business orders. He gave a short, humorless laugh. His business. Sure. On and on it went. Every transaction was a small confession. The hair appointments, the new golf clubs labeled as networking, the spa gift cards that appeared right after my mother's birthday. Every purchase had an excuse attached. Every excuse had my name on the bill. 2 hours later, the table was covered in notes and receipts. My stomach churned as he added the totals with the corner of his pen. You weren't just paying their bills, he said finally. You were financing their hobbies. I didn't argue. I couldn't. He pointed at the screen. Credit cards. I hesitated. Do we have to? Yes. I opened the statement. The numbers climbed like a staircase straight into shame. He read out loud, 3,000, spring break, Cancun. Who's that? Mia, I said quietly. She said her flight got cancelled. She was stranded. So you paid to get her home? I swallowed. No. That was the hotel. He didn't say anything. He just wrote it down. 2000, audio tech. Hannah. Her laptop broke before finals. He checked another sheet. And 5,000 to bail bonds unlimited. I looked away. My throat closed. That one's your father, he said flatly. Fraud charge. Selling fake parts. The ones he ordered with your Prime account. I pressed my hands against my face. I just wanted to help. You did, he said. You helped them stay exactly where they were. When he finished his calculations, he turned the pad toward me. At the bottom was a number so large it didn't look real. Hundreds of thousands, money that could have been a house, a future, a life. This, he said, tapping the total, is your bill. Not what they owe you. What you paid to learn who they are. I stared at the paper. So it's over? I asked. They can't take more. He slid his tablet closer. Not exactly. They just refinanced the house 2 weeks ago. Took out another 100,000. What? He nodded. Your name's not on it, thank God. But their story about being broke. It's fiction. He swiped again, showing another list, account balances. Mia had a savings account with 20 grand. Hannah's tuition. Covered by a full scholarship. She said, I started. I know what she said. He folded the pad and handed it to me. They all said something. That's how they kept you feeding the machine. I sat back, dizzy. Everything I believed about my family had been rewritten in a few hours, reduced to a column of transactions and lies. He stood and zipped his windbreaker. Now you know, he said. You thought it was love. They thought it was obligation. Different math. He stopped at the door. They're going to come for you, Lily. And not just for money. You're the only thing they can't control anymore. I looked down at the pad in my hands, the cost of my freedom printed in ink. The next morning, my phone started ringing again, but this time, it wasn't guilt they were using. It was fear. And they were just getting started. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the blinds and hit the yellow pad still sitting on my kitchen table. I hadn't moved it all night. I'd fallen asleep on the couch, still dressed, with that paper clutched against my chest like a shield. When my phone started buzzing, I knew before I looked who it was. Mom. The screen lit up again and again, the same name pulsing in the half-light. I didn't answer. I just watched until it stopped. Then it started again. And again. Finally, the ringing turned into a string of text messages. Mom, call me now. Mom, we need to talk about the mortgage. Mom, your father's furious. I stared at the words. No, how are you? No, we're glad you're okay. Just business. 10 minutes later, a new message appeared. Dad, bank called. Payment didn't go through. You need to fix this before it hits my credit. It was so cold it made me laugh. The sound that came out didn't even sound human. It was too sharp, too empty. Then Mia chimed in. Mia, my landlord's threatening to evict me. Are you serious right now? Mia, you can't do this to me. And finally, Hannah. Hannah, please, I know they're mad, but I need you. If my tuition isn't paid, I'll get kicked out. I could almost hear her voice while reading it. Soft, pleading, rehearsed. The good one. The reasonable one. The one who knew how to sound innocent while twisting the knife. I set the phone down, face down, and walked away. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. Each buzz from the table made my shoulders tense. My hands shook when I tried to make coffee. The smell reminded me of work mornings, the ones where I'd start at 6 a.m. and finish after dark. The ones I'd convinced myself were worth it because I was helping my family. I wasn't helping them. I was keeping them dependent. At noon, my phone rang again. I didn't have to check. My father's voice filled the voicemail when I finally listened. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, Lily. You embarrassed me with that payment. The bank called. Do you even understand what you've done? You have responsibilities. Call me back immediately. Responsibilities. That word had followed me my entire life. It was their favorite chain. Then came another voicemail, this time from Mia. Her crying was loud, almost theatrical. How could you do this? I have 3 days before I'm out of my apartment. Are you really that cruel? You're destroying your own family. You're sick. You need help. I turned off the phone. For an hour, the silence felt like peace again. Then the thoughts came creeping in, the familiar guilt, the weight that always followed anger. What if they really were in trouble? What if I'd gone too far? That's when I heard my grandfather's voice in my head. They trained you to feel guilty. Don't give them what they want. I took a deep breath, grabbed my phone, and opened the drawer of my desk. I dropped it inside, closed it, and locked it. The buzzing became a muffled hum, like bees trapped in glass. I made tea, opened the window, and let the cold air fill the room. I reminded myself that no one had shown up when I was lying in a hospital bed. No one had called when I almost died from exhaustion. If they could ignore me when I was dying, I could ignore them while they were uncomfortable. That night, I sat at the same kitchen table, staring at the yellow pad again. The numbers were still there, staring back, accusing but liberating. My phone buzzed faintly from the drawer every few minutes, each vibration a reminder of the old life trying to claw its way back. I didn't open it. Not once. By midnight, the buzzing stopped. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful this time, it was strategic. I could feel it. When people like them stop calling, it's never because they've accepted defeat. It's because they're planning their next move. I thought the silence meant victory, but by morning, I learned it was just camouflage, and their next move would drag my name into a public war I never agreed to fight. By morning, my phone was quiet. Too quiet. I made breakfast, washed the same mug 3 times, and told myself maybe they'd given up. Maybe they'd realized I meant it this time. Then my grandfather called. His number was one of the few still unblocked. "Lily," he said. His voice was steady, but there was a weight in it. "Don't open social media." The words made my stomach drop. "Why? What happened?" "It's Mia," he said. "She posted something. You'll see it eventually, so better you hear it first. She's not just talking to you anymore, she's talking to everyone." My hand was already reaching for my phone. "What do you mean?" "I mean she's performing," he said. "And people love a tragedy. Especially when it's fake." After we hung up, I sat staring at my screen for a long time before finally opening the app. The video was everywhere, shared, reposted, already gathering thousands of comments. Mia sat on the couch of her bright apartment, the one I'd paid for, hair pulled into a messy bun that probably took an hour to style. Her face looked pale, her eyes swollen with practiced tears. "I don't usually do this," she began, voice trembling just enough. "But I'm going through something really painful. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you, they just stop. They abandon you. And you don't even know why." She sniffled. A single tear slid down her cheek. She didn't wipe it. The camera caught it perfectly. "I've been helping my family for years," she said, flipping the script effortlessly. "And now I'm being punished for caring too much. My sister, she's not well. She's unstable. And she's cut us off completely. I don't know what to do anymore." Her voice cracked. "I might lose my home. But I'll get through this. I have to believe kindness comes back to you." The video ended with soft piano music and a quote about forgiveness. I stared at the screen in disbelief. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Every sentence was a lie, but told with just enough truth to sound believable. The comments were endless. "You're so strong, sweetheart. Family can be toxic, cut them off if you need to. Whoever did this to you doesn't deserve you. We love you, stay brave." They loved her. They believed her. My hands shook. I called my grandfather back. "She's turning everyone against me. I have to post something. I need to tell the truth." "No," he said immediately. "You don't. She's lying." "Of course she is. But if you respond, you'll look unhinged. That's what she wants. Don't give her that." I clenched my jaw. "So I just let her lie." "You let her hang herself with her own rope," he said. "Lies can't stand without new lies to hold them up. Give her time." The weight will do the work. It was infuriating, but deep down I knew he was right. I didn't post. I didn't comment. I didn't even open the app again that day. By night, my phone was blowing up with messages from co-workers. Hey, are you okay? Saw your sister's post. Is everything all right between you two? You know, if you ever need to talk. They weren't asking to help. They were fishing for gossip. I ignored every one of them. The next morning, my phone rang again. Grandpa. His voice sounded almost amused. Time to look now. What do you mean? Go check her post, he said. It's collapsing. I opened the app cautiously. The first thing I noticed was that the top comments were different now. Someone had posted a screenshot, my family's lake photo. The one where they'd called me drama. The caption under it. Funny how this was posted the same weekend her sister was hospitalized. Guess she was the drama for almost dying. Replies flooded beneath it. Wait, what? She was in the hospital. Oh my God, this is disgusting. So she abandoned her sick sister and then played the victim. Within hours, the tide had turned. Mia's followers weren't defending her anymore, they were tearing her apart. People were reposting the lake photo beside her crying video, writing captions like "The internet never forgets and truth always wins." I scrolled through the chaos, my pulse pounding. Mia deleted the video first. Then her profile. Then Hannah's. Then my parents'. They vanished. I called Grandpa, my voice trembling between shock and relief. How did that happen? Who posted it? He paused, and I could hear the faint smile in his voice. Let's just say the truth needed a push. Even old men can learn how to post screenshots. For the first time in weeks, I laughed, a real laugh, the kind that felt like oxygen. But even as I laughed, a thought flickered at the edge of my mind. People like them don't disappear quietly. They just regroup. I was right. A week later, the knock on my door wasn't from family. It was from a man in a cheap suit, carrying papers that would turn their lies into a weapon I never saw coming. A week of silence felt like a gift. The comments stopped. The messages dried up. Even my phone seemed lighter, like it had finally been forgiven for all the noise it used to carry. I started sleeping through the night again. I cooked real meals. I walked outside and didn't feel like everyone was staring at me. For the first time, it felt like the whole nightmare might finally be over. Then came the knock. It was early afternoon, just after I'd made tea. 3 sharp knocks, quick and businesslike. Not the kind of rhythm friends used. When I opened the door, a man in a wrinkled grey suit stood there holding a thick envelope. His tie was crooked. He didn't look me in the eye. Lily Dawson, he asked. Yes. He handed me the envelope. You've been served, he said, then turned and walked down the hall before I could ask anything. My hand trembled as I closed the door. The envelope felt heavier than it should have. I sat down at the table and stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Inside was a stack of papers, official, stamped, full of words I didn't understand. The first page read, "Petition for temporary conservatorship." My chest went cold. I read the first paragraph. Then the second. By the third, I felt my heart pounding in my ears. The respondent, Lily Dawson, has exhibited signs of mental and emotional instability, following a medical collapse and subsequent erratic financial behavior. Petitioners David and Karen Dawson request immediate conservatorship to protect her welfare and assets. They were claiming I wasn't capable of managing my own life, that I was unwell, that I was a danger to myself, and they wanted legal control over everything I owned, everything I had left. The worst part. It was smart. Evil, but smart. I was a single woman. No husband, no children. I'd just spent a week in a hospital for exhaustion. From the outside, it must have looked like a breakdown. To a judge, their story might sound like concern. Poor parents, trying to protect their troubled daughter. Except it wasn't concern, it was control. They couldn't get my money back, so they were going to take me instead. I called Grandpa immediately. My voice was barely a whisper. They filed for conservatorship. I know, he said calmly. I got a copy. You, what? How? I've been expecting it. Expecting it. My voice rose. They're trying to declare me incompetent. Yes, he said. And they'll fail. I pressed the phone to my ear, pacing the kitchen. Grandpa, you don't understand. They're serious. They have lawyers. So do we, he said, cutting me off. I hired one the moment you got out of the hospital. I stopped. What? He sighed. Lily, I've been on this earth a long time. I've seen men like your father before. I knew the moment you stopped paying, he'd pull something desperate. My head was spinning. But what can we even do? You don't need to do anything, he said. I already filed a response. He explained what he'd done, his tone calm, methodical, almost clinical. The trust he'd mentioned earlier, the one my father was never supposed to touch, wasn't just a backup plan. It was a firewall. He'd already moved my accounts, my savings, even my paychecks from work into it. On paper, I had nothing. Let them tell the court they're trying to protect your assets, he said. You don't have any. The judge will wonder why they care so much about money that doesn't exist. I sat down, dizzy. And if they find out about the trust? They won't, he said. It's locked tighter than their conscience. Then his tone softened. You're going to hear a lot of ugly things, Lily. They'll say you're unstable. They'll drag your name through the mud. But don't break. They need you rattled. The hearing happened the next morning. I wasn't even there. My grandfather's lawyer handled it remotely. When he called me that afternoon, his voice carried a rare note of satisfaction. It's done, he said. Petition denied. With prejudice. I didn't know what that meant. So, they can try again later. No, he said. It means they can't file it again. Not ever. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Then I laughed, softly at first, then louder, until tears blurred my vision. It was over. Really over. Later that evening, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No stamps, no address. Just my name in my father's handwriting. Inside was a single page. You've destroyed this family. You've let that old man poison you. You've turned your back on us after everything we've done for you. Don't come to the house. Don't contact us again. You made your choice. I hope you're happy. David. I folded the letter neatly, placed it on the table, and smiled. They were right. I had made my choice. And for once, it was mine. Weeks later, I would drive through the mountains with Grandpa beside me, free, but not untouched, and learn that healing isn't about escaping your past. It's about finally living without paying for it. 3 weeks later, I was behind the wheel of my grandfather's old sedan, the same one he'd driven to pick me up after the hospital. The sun was just starting to climb over the mountains, and the light turned everything gold. He sat in the passenger seat with his coffee in a thermos and the window cracked open, letting the air move through. The road curved through pine trees and quiet valleys. For a while, neither of us said anything. It was the kind of silence that didn't weigh on you. It just existed, steady and alive. You drive too carefully, he said eventually, his voice dry as sandpaper. I smiled. After the year I've had, I think I've earned the right to be boring. He chuckled, then sipped his coffee. You're not boring. You're breathing. Big difference. We passed a sign that said Welcome to Grey Ridge Lake. I slowed the car as we rounded the bend. The water came into view, calm, still, reflecting the sky perfectly. The same lake from that photo. The one where they'd written no drama. I pulled over without thinking. My hands gripped the steering wheel tight enough to hurt. You don't have to stop, Grandpa said quietly. I do, I whispered. I got out and walked down toward the dock. The boards creaked under my feet. The wind carried the smell of wet wood and pine sap. Everything looked exactly the same as it had in that picture, except the people. They weren't here now. And for the first time, it felt like my lake. I stood there for a long time, just breathing. When I went back to the car, Grandpa had turned the radio off. He was looking out the window, lost in thought. You know, he said, You're the only one in this family who's ever broken the pattern. What pattern? Debt, he said. Not just money. The kind that starts with guilt and ends with silence. Your father learned it from his mother. She learned it from hers. It's the same story told with different excuses. I rested my head against the seat. I wish it didn't have to hurt so much to end it. It always hurts when you stop being the one who holds everyone else up, he said. But pain isn't punishment. It's proof you're alive. I looked out at the road ahead. So what now? Now. He smiled faintly. You live small for a while. Quiet. Learn what your own voice sounds like when no one's shouting over it. That night we stopped at a roadside inn. It wasn't fancy, one of those places where the keys still hang behind the desk and the vending machine hums in the corner, but it felt safe. I took a shower, made tea, and sat by the window while Grandpa snored softly from the other bed. I opened my notebook, the one I'd packed when I left the hospital, and started to write. Not about them. Not about the money. About me. About the girl who once mistook usefulness for love, and about the woman who finally learned the difference. For years, I'd thought survival meant giving until there was nothing left. But real survival, I was learning, was the opposite. It meant keeping something for yourself. By morning, the first page was full. We checked out after breakfast. As we loaded the car, Grandpa handed me the keys. Your turn to pick the road, he said. Where are we going? I asked. He shrugged. Does it matter? I thought about it, then smiled. No, not anymore. We drove until the mountains gave way to open fields. The sky stretched wider than it ever had before. I rolled the window down and let the wind rush in, warm and wild. For the first time in years, I wasn't running from anything. I wasn't trying to prove, fix, or earn my place. I was just moving forward. As the miles passed, the weight I'd carried for so long began to lift. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, but it lifted. I looked over at Grandpa, his hat pulled low, his hand resting on the armrest. He glanced at me and smiled like he'd known this moment would come all along. Feels different, doesn't it? He said. Yeah, I said softly. It finally feels like mine. The road curved again, sunlight glinting off the windshield. I didn't know where it led, and for once, that didn't scare me. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't someone's provider, fixer, or scapegoat. I was just Lily, alive, free, and finally done paying. But healing isn't a straight road, it's a long drive with no map. And somewhere out there, past the hills and the silence, I was ready to find out who I could be when I stopped surviving and started living.